Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. Oh, this is being recorded West Coast date on April 23rd, 2013. Would be the 24th where our guest and Ramon is at, though. Actually, pretty decent weather here finally. I think spring finally sprung here in the Great Northwest.
It just started raining here.
Oh, I just absolutely love it when the weather finally starts breaking in the springtime. Everything's starting to bloom. Leaves are all beginning to get on the trees, and I know it just has that energy, that fresh energy. I love it. So let's see. We've got that serious movie that's on the website, and Ramon's seen it already. How is that, Ramon?
I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of information there, and I don't want to, it's hard to talk about a movie without giving it away, but it's definitely worth the watch. And more important than that, it's, when you rent it or buy it, you not only support the movie, which will in turn, they would try to, they put the money back in to do a lab. So
yeah, they're building a lab to work on energy stuff, right?
Yeah, and on top of that, it also helps support us too, as well. So everybody wins from that. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. And also, I want to say thank you to everybody who already got the movie, and as soon as I can figure out how, we'll put a little comment thing under there so you can comment what you thought about the movie, so other people can look at that as well. Let me just go through some things real quick here, Tom. Just so you know, we're accepting the Bitcoins. The Litecoin I haven't set up yet. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and try to figure that out. But the Bitcoins, so if you want to use Bitcoins and you want to send us that to get a membership, send us an email first, and I'll send you the price depending where the Bitcoin's at that day. We won't try to take advantage. So
yeah, we're definitely going to be on a little bit of a learning curve on figuring out how all this stuff works. But I see this whole, I guess this movement that's happening across the planet, people looking for alternative currencies, alternative this, alternative that, ways to get out of this system and open up this new paradigm, change. We're looking for change. And this is one of those things that whether or not it is successful and it has staying power, time will tell. But it is a step in the right direction. It is something, it's different. It is, like they say, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I think this is a win-win for everybody involved. We're looking at alternatives to the system that we're currently under. And as you all know, the system that is in place now has overstayed its welcome. So...
yeah, I mean, this what I do like about this system, that it undermines the banks, and we don't have to go to the banks. And if you have your Bitcoins in your wallet, as long as you have it backed up, then you don't have to worry about the banks or even taxation, because I wouldn't know how they'll be able to tax that.
Yeah, ultimately, Ramon, I see us going completely away from any type of currency along those lines. So
agreed, but I think it's kind of like where it's a hardcore addiction. Like if you're addicted to heroin or crack, you can't just stop one day after.
Right.
You have to wean yourself off it little by little.
Exactly. So, and like I said, this is a step in the right direction. So.
This is like methadone.
Yeah. The methadone clinic is open. So we got a pretty exciting lineup on our schedule.
Yeah.
Guys coming up that we're going to be having on the show. We've got let's see. We've got Russell Targ coming up, Joe Gallenberger. Let's see, Betsy Lewis. Sherry Ann Cortland's going to come back again. And that's just on the pre-recorded stuff, this show. And on the live show, yeah, I'm not looking at the schedule right now. Who's on next week on the live show, Ramon?
Next week is, hold on, I'm clicking on the schedule. And next week we'll have, actually we have Ann Gale coming back.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh man, she's such a wonderful being. Rose, Ann Gale Rose O'Grady. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So,
well,
you guys,
before,
what's that?
Are you gonna read the poem?
Oh yeah, we're not there yet.
Okay.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Vimeo. Let's see, www.the100thmonkeyradio.com, and all those wonderful places, and or your friendly neighborhood search engine. Let's see. I think
we're also out there telepathically if you can connect.
Right. We broadcast all these shows simulcast telepathically. So,
I just want to tell a really quick story. I'll make it really fast. So there was a bit of confusion with the timing where I guess because we're dealing with 3 different time zones and 2 different days of the week. You know, it's Tom's Tuesday, it's our Wednesday. So I was just thinking, if it's that confusing just on Earth, what happens, Tom, when we take the show intergalactic? You know, we'll be dealing with different days of different month systems, different days, different hours. So
it's going to get interesting. It's going to get interesting. I don't know if there's really a scale that will cover all the bases, but we'll see. Maybe our guest knows about that. Well, maybe we'll.
Yeah, that's a question I'm sure nobody's ever asked her.
Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to start off with something that I found on her website, and just to let you know, we have with us tonight Judy Carroll, and Judy Carroll I'll read this little bio we have on here. She's a Tai Chi and Reiki master and meditator whose many years of often fully conscious encounters with off-planet visitors known as Greys or Zetas blessed her with deep insights into the so-called UFO phenomena. At 30, she had a fully conscious daytime encounter in which she recognized the visitors as family. Now, she's got a couple of websites. She's got the zetamessage.com, and I believe the other one was UFO Grey, that's GREY, info.com. Now, this is a poem that's on the UFO Grey info.com, and I wanted to share this with you guys because I thought it was just absolutely fantastic. The Watchers. Across the span of time and space, we reach out to the human race to gently lead them through the door and past the fear, their need for war. We travel in our ships of light across the sky in dark of night. The earthlings see us from afar and wonder at the shooting star. We come in dreams to touch their minds. They draw back, close down the blinds. So then we try to touch their heart as testers of souls to play our part. Emotionless we may appear to earthlings who are trapped in fear. But we can laugh and we can cry. We too feel pain, our bodies die. They call us aliens and greys, greet us with dread and turn away. They fear our looks and spurn our race, for they only see the outer face. They block and hurt us with their fear, but there's no choice, we must draw near. We hold their future in our hands, not God, but part of cosmic plan. Transform the light to higher keys and strive to heal their energies, to help them up and past their fall, for like us, they're part of one and all. That I found that just fascinating. So, welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio, Judy.
Thanks very much for having me. I'm really enjoying being here.
Oh yeah, we're excited to have you here. You know, Ramon and I have been following the whole UFO phenomenon, well, I've been acutely aware of it since the age of 14 myself, when I saw my first UFO. But it's been a fascination throughout my whole life. And the whole, the Greys, quote unquote, has always been I guess, the icon of ufology, of the non-locals is the term I like to use now. That's like, I love that term, but it's been the icon in Western society and pretty much worldwide, I would have to say, for the visitors. And your experiences are just absolutely amazing. Where do we want to start, Ramon?
I was gonna talk about the poem, because the poem, there was something, that I always said, and that's, just like you can't judge the whole human race by a small group of people. And the same thing I would say with any, non-locals or non-human beings. So, but I want to start off with, I think most of our audience is pretty familiar with your story, and, I want to start off with, how is your relationship with them, and how would you compare it in a human term?
Well, that's an interesting question. I'd just like to say first, I really enjoyed listening to that poem again. That actually came through back in about 2001 or 2002 when we first made contact with one of the Zeta teachers by the name of Laurus. And I remember that poem being channeled through, and it was an amazing experience, just, writing it out and feeling it come through. And I actually read it out at the very first talk that I ever did on this, a public talk. So it was lovely to hear it again. I'd almost forgotten about it, because when stuff's channeled through, it sort of comes in one ear, you write it down, then it disappears, and I'd almost forgotten it. So it was lovely hearing it again.
Oh, I know how that works. I call it, my own, the way I experience those connections, I call it getting plugged in. And it's the same thing. It comes in, and I spit it all out, and then 5 minutes later you can ask me what I said, and I'll go, I have no idea.
I know. Oh dear. Well, to talk a little bit about the Greys and their relationship with Earth humans, they could be described as cosmic alchemists. Because what they're doing, they're actually assisting and awakening us as a planetary culture on multidimensional levels of our being. And they're doing this physically through such things as adjustments to our DNA, mentally through exposing us to the reality of mind states that are way beyond our familiar third-dimensional concept of reality. And they're also pushing us past deeply buried fear barriers that are actually blocking our minds from being able to access deeper and more expanded conscious awareness, which is the key to human evolution. So they're actually assisting us with our evolutionary process as a human race. Spiritually, they're adjusting us through our energy system. Implants, for example, the crop circles are another way it's being done. It's exposing us to the energy of these things, and they all these different things. The how can I say, crop circle symbols, the implants that are put into our chakra system. They all sort of work in a way like acupuncture and Reiki, in that they balance and harmonise and raise our energy frequency, which is what soul evolution is about. So really their whole job is to assist Earth and humanity to step up to fifth world consciousness. So that's what they're doing here.
So I know you had experiences early on in life, and it was, I think you wrote it was age 30 when you had your first face-to-face, so to say.
Yeah.
What actually what brought it into your consciousness as a child to become aware that something was going on?
Well, it was interesting because the very first memory I have, conscious memory I have, was of being taken up our street by a tall, thin woman. She held me by the hand. I would have been about 3 years old at the time, and I was taken to what my child's consciousness told me was to board a train, going into a train station to board a train. As I came to understand, as I grew older, there was no train station up the end of our street. The train station was miles away. And so what it was like an altered state experience. I actually experienced it as a dream. And I remember even waking up the next morning and asking my grandmother, when she was going to take me back. I thought it was my grandmother who took me, and I enjoyed it so much. And I said to her, well, when are you going to take me back on the train again? And of course, she had no idea what I was talking about. She said, oh, it was just a dream, and we didn't go on a train. And it took me, as I say, many years to get my head around the fact that there was no train station up the top of our street. I was always sort of going up there looking for it. And I came to understand that it was a screen image to protect me as a child, because, to be taken on an ET disc at that age would have really freaked me out. So it was a protective mechanism because I was being taken on board very regularly. I understand now that I was. And that one time that I had a conscious memory of it, the screen image was put over the top to make it easier for me. I actually was pretty scared as a kid. I went through a lot of fear before I was able to open up consciously. I had all the classic fears, as I realised years later when I started reading about other people's contact experiences. I had all the classic fears that people have who are in contact with the greys. For example, a fear of eyes, fear of dolls and puppets, things like that. I always had an ongoing fear that someone was going to come into the house and take me away. And I was probably about 10 years old before I was actually game to go to bed on my own. It was quite embarrassing until I came to realise what had been going on. I've spoken to other people since, and I realise now that others who've been through a similar experience went through similar types of fears that I had: fear of the dark, fear of eyes, etc.
Do you recall any unusual, as far as when I say unusual, that different than the other kids in your class type thing?
Oh wow! Yeah.
type of insights or things that you were taught during those early years that was abnormal, so to say, or different from what the other children were learning and experiencing? Not
so much myself personally. I know someone else who has been through that sort of thing. With me, it was more a feeling of just not belonging down here. I had an awful lot of trouble with the aggressiveness of humans. My school life was dreadful. I absolutely hated it. I don't think I ever put in one full week at school. I was always trying to stay away. I used to get so anxious I'd be vomiting in the morning. I just couldn't stand the aggression and the bullying and all that sort of thing going on. It just wasn't in my world, and I had terrible trouble with it. I did know that there was something going on that I couldn't quite bring to conscious awareness, but I kept it to myself because I was embarrassed about it, my fears and all that. It was funny. I just knew there was stuff going on when I was a kid, and it was frustrating because it scared me, but it fascinated me at the same time. And I just never really felt close or connected to any other children at school. I just couldn't relate to the way we were educated, really. This is coming out more now with more of the star children. They're finding that the way they need to be educated is vastly different to the way education is generally carried out on Earth. And right. I can really relate to that, the difficulty of it, the harshness of it, put it that way.
Yeah, if I can jump ahead, because that's something, what is their education like? Can you give us an example of how they would educate their children?
Yeah, they have classes. I can remember attending classes up on the disc. So some of it is like a classroom type thing, but a lot of the information is just really downloaded, which is the way I've been educated since I opened up to the Zeta family. I've received education in the same way. It's more a telepathic thing. And it's like an opening of a flower bud. It's slow, it's gentle. They only download as much as you can handle because they don't want to blow your mind. Sometimes I actually get a little bit impatient with it and say, look, send more through. But it's always, no, it'll be sent when the time's right. And I mean, they know better than we do when the time is right for stuff to be given to us. And it's interesting. It's like an unfolding tapestry. It's absolutely fascinating. During my encounter, full daylight encounter at age 30, I was actually given instructions by them on certain avenues of study that I had to undergo to enable me to carry out my Zeta work down here. I was told that I had to learn meditation, I had to learn Tai Chi, I had to learn natural healing therapies, things like that. So that was a direct download. I was told that I had to do this, but they weren't going to download all the information. I had to go out and actually do the studies to ground it in my earth human consciousness.
Right. Had you been seeking spiritual-minded types of things prior to your encounter at 30?
No, absolutely not. This is an interesting point because I was actually educated in a Catholic convent and very drawn to, well, basically religion right through my teens. I would never miss Mass. I always went to Mass every Sunday. I was a very, very good Catholic. I actually had a couple of times of thinking I should become a nun because I was drawn to that sort of sacred type thing. And then my life changed. I was actually drawn into dancing, professional dancing. I have a great-grandmother who's a Spanish gypsy, who was a Spanish gypsy. And she was a flamenco dancer and a psychic and a clairvoyant medium, etc. And I was drawn into the dancing side of it. And I always remember my aunt making a comment, how you've taken after your great-grandmother in this. And I was a professional dancer for many years. And this was the reason, actually, why the Zetas advised me to learn Tai Chi, because as a professional dancer, they wanted me to meditate, and it was really hard. I was a very physically oriented person, brought up Catholic, so I wasn't into any of this stuff at all. I'd never even heard of ETs at that stage. I'd never, for Greys, no, I'd never heard the term. So I realise now that was the very best advice I could have been given, to go and learn Tai Chi, because it's a physical, moving meditation. But that's the key to it. It is meditation as well. And that was the key that I needed to open the door to get into all this other stuff.
What style of, because I used to dance myself, what style of dance did you do?
Flamenco, Spanish, gypsy.
Flamenco. You did the same, okay.
Yeah.
So, did you find when you were dancing and you were in what we would call like in the zone, for me, I find that the same as meditation, because there's like this non-thinking, you're just moving to the music.
Oh yes, it's actually funny this, because when I came to write the Zeta message, which is sort of my autobiography as well as that of my co-author Helen Kay, I had to, of course, start going back over my life, and it made me realise how, right from a young person, the Zetas had been guiding me and training me into the work I'm doing now. And I realised that they were the ones who were actually involved in getting me doing the dancing, because being a Zeta down here in human form, I used to actually have quite a lot of trouble with expressing emotion. And of course, flamenco dance is very much emotion out there with it. So yes, it was wonderful training to learn to express emotion as a human. But also, what a lot of people don't understand is that being a gypsy type dance, it's connected in with meditational type techniques. So they have a term in Spanish that is duende. They talk about duende. And it's the ultimate experience when you're dancing flamenco is to go into this state of duende. They speak about the duende coming upon you, and it's almost like an alternative trance state. So yes, you do go into another state. And when I was doing this, I didn't realise at the time, I only came to understand this many years later when I started meditating, I used to actually channel a past life when I was dancing. I used to feel a completely different sense of consciousness coming down over me. And I actually had several people saying, oh, wow, your whole aura changes when you dance. So as well as teaching me how to express emotion, they were also getting me used to channeling as well. So, yes, absolutely. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and I understand exactly what you mean. But I've heard the term before, and because I speak Spanish myself.
Okay.
But duende, like that's one version, but I've heard it more like a type of like mystical. I want to say dwarf, but not really.
Yeah.
Like in the Caribbean.
Yes, it's like a mystical experience.
Yeah.
It translates very roughly into English as spirit, soul, something like that. Yeah, so it's like a mystical, lifting you up into a mystical sort of zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to put into physical terms.
Yeah. Even in Spanish, the meanings change depending on what country you're in.
Right.
But yeah, so um, after the dancing, you moved into the Tai Chi. Did you find that the two just blend very easy together for you, or was there a bit of a challenge?
No, they did actually blend very well. It's funny that because there's quite a lot of cross-cultural stuff going on between Spain and Japan over the years. There has been with a lot of Spanish dancers learning things like Aikido and things like that, and a lot of Japanese people coming to Spain to learn flamenco. So, funnily enough, the two cultures seem to work quite well together. I found because I got used to this trance state in the flamenco, it was such a natural thing to me. And I guess with my family background, with the gypsy blood, it's a tribal, shamanic type background, I found I blended into that very well. And then, of course, the Tai Chi just lifted it to a whole new level. And then this in turn, strangely enough, helped me to get into meditation, and I was invited quite out of the blue to join a meditation group that I sat in for about 8 years. And during the time that I was in this group, I learned channeling and I also learned automatic writing. And having come from the background of a dancer and learning Tai Chi, what those two things trained me to do, and again, it was all Zeta planning, it trained me to be able to go into an altered state, pick up messages and teachings, but at the same time be grounded enough to write them down. And so this was all training, obviously, for the books to eventually come through. They started me off with just spiritual teachings that used to come through as I was meditating, and I'd write them down afterwards, and then this developed through to writing the books. So it's quite amazing. When I look back, all the seeming coincidences, I can see the whole thing was just so carefully planned beforehand.
Oh, yeah, I definitely, looking back, I can see the orchestration behind so many events in my life. It's that hindsight 2020 thing. You can see the whole plan laid out for sure.
Yeah, you realise that there's much greater powers behind the scene than we realise consciously down here.
So you mentioned that you, during dancing, that you would have flashes of past lives. Can you share some of those with us? What type of experience did you have with that?
The life that I was picking up on was a former gypsy life in Spain where I had been a dancer. And this past life, I think, was obviously coming through to help me out this time. I remember a very interesting experience once when I was performing at a private function in someone's home, and I was getting changed into my costume, and I had to walk out into the living room or wherever it was that we were performing, and I walked past the mirror, and just for a moment I looked in the mirror, and this different face looked back at me. I didn't quite freak out, but because I had the performance on my mind, but when I thought about it afterwards, it was like, whoa, what was that all about? And it was a very different face, and I believe it was a past life face that was starting to sort of come through my own. And it was this one that used to accompany me when I was dancing.
Yeah, I've actually caught glimpses similar to that myself of my own face, and the double take. What was that? What?
I remember just not that long ago, a few months ago, a very similar thing happened to me with the Zeta thing, because, of course, when I go to sleep at night, I step out of my human container, my human body, and go up onto the ship to do work. And I remember actually getting up out of the body, and I was standing in front of the mirror when my face changed, and I saw it change from human to Zeta. And I dress in the black clothes as some of the Zetas do, and so I had the black robe and the hood and that. And I remember thinking to myself and having a little laugh, oh, that looks better.
uh-huh. So, let's go into the Zetas a little bit now. Would you give us a brief overview of exactly who and what the Zetas are? For those listeners out there who may not actually understand the full depth. I mean, everybody knows the Greys,
Yeah.
But exactly who and what are the Zetas?
Okay, the Zetas are they're actually a planetary culture living in the Zeta Reticuli star system, which I think it's about 37 light years from Earth. There are actually many different cultures within this system. There's not just one type of Zeta. There's many different races. The difference between Zetas and Greys, they're sort of the same, but I think of them as the Greys actually being higher. How can I say? I'll probably have to go back and explain this through another teaching, but I'll try and before I do that, I'll try and explain. They're actually of a higher vibrational frequency. The physical Zetas are helping out as well, but the Greys are doing most of the work down here with the transmuting of energy. The actual Greys have moved past their need for physical bodies. Physicality only goes to a certain level in the universe. The majority of the universe and the beings that live therein are beyond the need for physical bodies or biological bodies. And so the ones that I refer to as the Greys or the Grey Guardians are these ones who have moved further on. And they will actually use artificial type bodies if they need to come down to a physical planet like Earth to carry out their work here, if they need to use a physical form. And they use that Zeta type body because it is very suitable for space travel. I mean, a biological human body isn't, whereas the Zeta physical form is ideal. And so the form that the Greys use is like a blueprint of the Zeta body, but it's a more artificial. And so this is why a lot of people who have contact with them have a lot of fear of dolls and puppets and things, because they do, when they're in these semi-artificial or artificial bodies, have a slightly sort of puppet-like look about them, which can be potentially a bit scary. But it's not an artificial consciousness. It's only the body that's artificial. The consciousness is human, how can I say, universal life force consciousness, just as people down here have. So the consciousness motivating the body is no different to the consciousness that's motivating a biological human body.
What are some of the, cultures? For example, here I live in Japan, and here in Japan they bow, in America they shake hands, and there's certain things like here, for example, you don't put your chopsticks inside the bowl of rice. That's very bad. What kind of cultures or mannerisms are? Because I think these kind of things are good to explore and know, because if we're going to start interacting with these different beings, it's time to get beyond the oh wow, the oh wow factor.
Yeah. Once you start moving up to these higher levels of what the Zetas refer to as a human ladder, I'll explain that in a moment, but once you start moving up to these higher levels, to where the Zetas and even the Pleiadians, all these other planetary cultures that people are aware of, you are moving more and more into oneness. So there isn't the diversity and duality and polarity amongst those races that there is down here. So that they are much more closely melded. So there's not huge cultural differences between them. They all follow these, what they refer to as the 11 universal and spiritual laws of the cosmos. And this is where Earth humans need to do a lot of study to respect the protocols involved with this. The universal law of free will, the universal law of change, of movement and balance, protection of family, equality, choice, intuition. There's many, many things involved. Down here, okay, we talk about free will. Up there, they operate more through what you could think of as God's will. Down here, we can choose whether we go along with what other people want, or if we, or to do everything more, directed towards ourselves. And a lot of stuff is much more self-orientated. Don't worry about what's going on around you and how you affect everyone else. It's just me, me, me. Whereas with the Zetas and other higher evolved cultures like that, they're more connected to God's will. Now, this can come across as a lack of free will, but it's not. It's a more, how can I say, homogenized, amalgamated type of way of relating to people and respecting everyone around you. So you never do anything just because you want to do it. You do it for the good of all. That's the main difference. And all those higher cultures follow that.
Are the Greys primarily, do they all originate from the Zeta Reticuli system, or are they they're different Greys from different sectors of the galaxy?
Yeah, not all. Once they get up to that higher level where they don't need physical form, there are beings there who've come up through every planetary system in the whole universe. These are actually the ones that are referred to as the Elohim in the Bible, which I think is a plural of gods, in that they were sort of creator-type beings down here working with God's source energy. So they've actually moved past physical form, but yes, they've come up through many different planetary systems. So once you get into what I talk about as the Grey Guardians, yes, or the Watchers, you can get people who've been Pleiadians, you can get people who've been Earth humans, you can get Zeta people, you can get all different sorts.
So like the Grey physical form, be like a rental car type thing.
Sort of, yeah, yeah.
It's just a vehicle for them to be able to interact with the third dimension. Then.
Yeah, that's right. It's just temporary. It's a work uniform, a little bit like when a human astronaut is going into space, he puts on a spacesuit. When a Grey Guardian wants to come down here and do a physical job, they'll put on that particular outfit to enable them to carry out their work. And it's so perfectly suited, it actually becomes their body. They meld their consciousness into the energy system. And so perfectly suited for space travel. It doesn't matter what atmosphere they have to operate in. They don't need to eat. For example, they don't have to carry food with them because the body is artificial. It doesn't need it. And, of course, the soul consciousness is motivating it. Is a light body, so it doesn't need anything like that. So it works really well. And then you get the other ones who actually come to be resident on a planet. And those ones, like myself, are actually born into the form that's native to that planet for a life experience. But then again, we can come and go from that form. What people need to realise is, Earth humans do this as well. When they sleep at night, the biological human body is just a container for the soul. They can step in and out of it. And many people who are trained in meditation can do this, so it's really no different.
So if this body, the Grey body, is sort of just like a kind of, the term I use probably doesn't really fit as well, but the rental car for consciousness to be able to interact on a third dimensional level, then I'm curious at why they would choose that form and develop that form. I know you said it's suitable for space travel, but I'd like to talk to the designers. I mean, doesn't the predominant third dimensional physical form is humanoid throughout the galaxy, is it not?
No, only on the very lowest levels of the galaxy. Biological life forms only go up to about the second level of the galaxy. I think what I better do, I think I'd better explain the human ladder. It'll clarify all these levels I'm talking about. The human ladder is actually a term that the Zetas and Greys use for the path or cycle of evolution that's followed by all human-type species through the universe. Now, it's comprised of 10 what they call galactic levels, but they're not galaxies or physical places. They're actually ascending levels of expanding conscious awareness. Now, Earth humans are only on the first rung, so we're able to access about 10% of potential conscious awareness down here. I emphasise the word conscious because this is the key to where people down here are evolving as humans. As they progress up through the 10 levels of the human ladder over the span of many, many, many lives, more and more DNA will be activated through this, which will enable them to consciously access and perceive higher energy frequencies. Because Earth humans can only access about 10% of their potential conscious awareness, they have about 10% of their DNA activated at the moment. So in other words, as they evolve up through these levels, they'll be able to become consciously aware of higher and higher realities, just as they're now aware of third dimensional reality in which they operate down here. Now, the Zetas are on about levels 2 to 3, whereas the Greys, or the Grey Guardians is probably a better word, are on levels 5 to 8. So they're able to access about 50 to 80% of their conscious awareness. Up above that are the ones that we down here think of as angels on levels 9 to 10. They have 90 to 100% conscious awareness. So what they are, they're way, way beyond physical form. They're just pure mind. Divine cosmic awareness or divine consciousness, whatever term you want to use. So the actual use of physical bodies ends once you start getting to about the third level. So what they've got to do, because often when they're coming back down from, say, the 5th or 6th or 7th level down to a physical planet, they have to have a body that is suitable for space travel. Now, a biological human body isn't, so they can't use them. This is the reason why they use the more Zeta-type bodies, because even at the third level, the Zetas are very, very well suited, even in their physical forms, to space travel. Their bodies can withstand the G-forces and things that a human body can't. So this is the reason why those bodies are then adapted for these higher ones to use. It's a very simple body, too. That's why they like it. It's extremely simple. The large head, because there's such a strong mind consciousness open, that's symbolic of, the large head, where they've moved away from physicality, so the body is just very small and frail and simple.
It's just, there's so many, me and Tom always, just want to take a ship and, just do an interview with them, or even just hang out and well, maybe, I don't know if they drink coffee, but we do. But my question is, I had, for example, I'll tell you this quick dream, because it makes me question some things. Like, I had a dream I was in this old house, and I don't recognize the old house. And I'm at the top of the stairs, and all of a sudden, this, lack of a better word, this gray comes in, and I knew him. And I walked down, like, halfway down the stairs where he was, and I grabbed his hand, and then we just vanished. And I saw myself, like, vanish with him, but then that was it. I don't remember anything else. So I know there's a lot of my friends and family who have dreams like that, and how much of that is dream, per se?
Oh, it's not. It's actually an experience that you're having that you perceive as a dream. I mean, the same as when I was taken on the ship as a child and I perceived it as a dream. It's the same thing. Your human consciousness sort of puts up a screen image, or sometimes the ETs do as well, to protect you from a reality that you might not be quite ready to accept yet. But no, it's not a dream. It's a very real experience. And what happens when you said you reached out and touched the Grey's hand, the Zeta's hand, that has the effect of immediately shifting your consciousness up to a higher level. You go into a different mind state that you can't access necessarily consciously down here. But it doesn't mean it's not happening.
You call them, you mentioned Grey Guardians. Now, are the Grey Guardians, would they be a kind of a separate race from the Zetas, is the way I'm kind of understanding this?
Yes, they're vibrating on a higher frequency. The Zetas are about level 2, 3 on the human ladder. The Grey Guardians are from levels all from about 5 upwards.
Now, are they also, the Grey Guardians, are they also operating in that sort of rental car, so to say?
Yes, they're the ones that are operating in a rental car thing. Okay. That's why they appear in those grey containers.
Okay,
I love that term. I love that.
So those are the ones that are actually using the container. Okay.
Yes.
And the actual there's a completely separate race then that actually evolved as the Grey. Then is that what you're saying?
No, they're the ones who come up from all those different physical planets.
Okay.
So they're now beyond physical form. They're just a light body, basically.
Okay, so the Zetas are like us on the coming from the third dimensional, projecting our consciousness out there. Will, if we're going out to do some astral work in some form or fashion, then sometimes we will use that Zeta body. Then.
Yes, if you are a Zeta down here, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, what makes? I guess I'm kind of a little confused on the fact of why they would be called the Zetas if consciousnesses from any different system in the galaxy has access to these. The Zeta Reticuli system, is that where these bodies were created then? Is that where the name originates from?
Not really. The bodies are actually based on that Zeta Reticuli form. It's like a blueprint for them, because it's so perfect for space travel. This is why these higher ones create a body for themselves that's similar to that. I know it's extremely confusing. I totally understand that. We're talking about multi-dimensional stuff here. It's really hard to put it into third-dimensional explanations.
Right.
Yeah. I'm curious about the angels. Have you yourself had any experience with any of those beings?
Look, I don't have a great deal of conscious memory of it, but there is one memory I do have. One of them actually once asking me up on the ship, why are Earth humans the way they are? And I remember my answer was because of fear. I can remember that so clearly.
Because I was wondering about the wings and why the wings, because obviously they don't really need wings to fly.
Well, see, the ones we think of as angels down here, they don't have physical form at all. They don't have a physical form. They're just pure energy, pure mind energy. Now, if, for example, they need to appear to a human down here, what they'll do, they'll take the form that the human has in their mind, how the person thinks of an angel. So if you think of an angel as being, blonde, blue-eyed with the wings, that's the form they'll take. They'll just take it out of the person's mind. If a person thought of an angel as being something different, then that's the form they'd appear
in. So I guess for you, Tom, would be a guy on a bicycle, huh?
Yeah, I guess that one was, anyways.
Tom had an experience that made him question.
Yeah, early in my wake up, since Ramon mentioned it, I probably should tell it real quick. Right at the beginning of my wake up process back in the mid '80s, I had been in great turmoil and was compelled to go out. I was living in Palm Springs at the time, and I was compelled to go out on my mountain bike and ride on a Saturday morning. And I had threw on my sweats and a T-shirt and took off and ended up going from stoplight to stoplight with this group of 5 other bicycles. And my bicycle seemed to have a mind of its own, and it kept pulling towards this one guy. And finally, after 3 lights, you have to understand I had a very traumatic wake-up process, but I was freaking out a little bit. And the mind was going, what the hell are you doing, Tom? And finally, I got up the nerve to talk to this guy, and I said, excuse me, and I said, I feel like I need to talk to you. And he looked at me and said, oh, yes, it's always nice to meet a kindred soul. And and that my jaw's dropping and, drool coming out of my, all these weird things. But so I couldn't think of anything to say, and the only thing what popped into my head is, where do you think the human race should go? What direction do you think the human race should go in? And he looked at me and said, true socialism. And,
interesting.
And I was like, I was like, just stared at him, nothing to say. I couldn't think of anything to say. I didn't have any response. And I said, well, thank you very much. Have a nice day, blah, blah, blah. And so the light turns green. He takes, during this conversation, the light had turned green and everybody else took off, and it was just me and him there. The light turned red, then it turned green again after he said, we said our farewell. And I glanced down and glanced up, and from the time that I glanced down and glanced up, the guy that was going across the street, the guy I'd been talking to was wearing black shorts and a sun yellow jersey, a bicycle jersey. And when I looked up, there was a completely different person halfway across the street wearing a peach-colored shirt. And I was like, okay, something really bizarre just happened. So, anyways, yeah.
Amazing.
So that was one of the first experiences for me to tell me, yeah, there's a lot more going on here, Tom, than what you realize.
Yeah.
Helped me out tremendously.
So, go ahead, Tom.
Did you have something, Ramon?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you wanted to contact them, would you are you able to contact them at any time, or is there a specific time, or how does it work for you?
I need to go into an altered state to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't just, and sometimes they're busy, or it's got to be timed right. But yes, if I need to contact them, I go into an altered state.
Yes. Speaking of, on Zeta Reticuli, what is time like their days of the week and stuff like that? Because I was making a joke about, if we were to interview one of them, we're having trouble just with 3 different countries. I can't even imagine a whole different star system.
I actually have a little bit of trouble bringing this side of it back into my Earth human consciousness. I know that the time goes differently up there, but I have I have enough trouble with time down here, let alone trying to link in up there as well. So I don't worry about that too much. I think, it's all really in the now, so...
Yeah, time is definitely a fickle thing, and oh my, just look at it. We are almost at the top of the hour already. Can you believe that?
So we are too.
Wow. So, Judy, let's go ahead and wrap up this first segment. If you would, for all our listeners out there, would you share your websites again for us and where they can pick up the books at? And you've got 4 books out, is that correct?
Yes, the first 2 were just about out of print. They were actually published here in Australia. But what we've done, those 2 books have now been republished under the title Human by Day, Zeta by Night. which is available from Amazon, from the Book Depository, from Barnes & Noble in the US, off Kindle, it's a Kindle ebook version. So those first two books are combined into that one. And then our other book is The Zeta Message, which is like an autobiographical work. Our websites are ufograyinfo.com, and that's GREY. And we have another book website called thezetamessage.com.
Great. Yeah, in the next hour, we'll want to go into some of the content that it's been shared with you as far as the different teachings and such that you've received. So that should be exciting. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this first segment. And if you are not a member yet, I would urge you to hit that button and help support the 100th Monkey Radio and all that Ramon and I are doing. We love you guys. Condemnation without investigation is a height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And we'll see you in the second hour.
Solve the problems that divide the world of black and white. To end the racism, we've got to fight so much.